Right. So my name is James. I own cedarrapidswebdesign.com, and I develop websites solely in WordPress. And I've been coming to this meetup for probably 4 or 5 months now. And WordPress is the most popular web building platform in the world. Something like, I don't know, over 25%, 30% of something of all websites in the entire world are built on WordPress. And so it's very, very popular. It has a lot of support from a lot of developers all over the place. So it's a very useful platform for really any kind of website that you want. Today we are going to do something that you wouldn't normally do, but we're going to do it because it will be a great learning opportunity to kind of see how WordPress works on the back end, and kind of how it's different from, if you're familiar at all with building a website with HTML and CSS, it'll kind of show you the differences and the benefits of using something like WordPress versus trying to code everything from scratch. So what we're going to do is we're going to take an HTML website, a very simple one, and we're just going to turn it into a WordPress website. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to be creating a custom theme from scratch. And I don't recommend actually doing that. There's so many good themes out there that you can use, and they're very customizable. And I don't know exactly what the security implications would be if you actually did what we're about to do in a production environment, but like I said, it's going to be a good learning opportunity. We're going to take a look at how WordPress works in the back end. So, and we're actually going to start from the very beginning. We're going to download WordPress and we're going to install it on the server so you can see how incredibly easy that is. So, I host all my websites in something called cPanel, which isn't necessarily something you need to know about, but it is probably one of the most popular web hosting graphical user interfaces out there. I created one right here using one of my existing domain names. I have way too many domain names. It's a problem. So cPanel, we're just going to go to the file manager here. Public HTML. If you're hosting on a Linux server, that's basically just your root directory for the website. And all we're going to do is upload that zip file, and then we're going to unzip it, and that's pretty much it.
I really like the way you're sharing information. Thank you.
Good.
I can get it.
I forgot to trigger the hit. Luckily that's easy too. That's a username.
I can't tell. I need my glasses broke. Here for web
Hello.
design?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, so all I did here is I created a database, I created a username with a password, and then I'm adding that username to that database. And we'll need that in a minute. We have to do that ahead of time. Most of the time, if you're using hosting like GoDaddy or Bluehost or HostGator, pretty much any hosting company, there's usually a click a button and it installs WordPress in the database and everything for you. But this is partly the reason why I'm doing this from scratch, is to kind of show you this is the first main difference between a WordPress website and a regular HTML website. Is a regular HTML website typically doesn't even have a database. You just build all your pages individually, completely separately, and that's it. WordPress websites and other content management systems pull their data from a database. So this is finished uploading. This is really cool about cPanel. When you upload the zip file, you can just extract it and it installs WordPress for you. It's pretty neat. Back in the day, you used to have to download all the files and then use FileZilla to upload them all to your server. And it was kind of stupid. But now you just upload the zip file and extract it. Hello. It puts it in a folder called WordPress, which I don't want, so I'm just going to move it to the root directory. That's all I'm doing now. You could leave it in WordPress if you wanted. That kind of gets confusing later. Now we get to the fun part. Okay, so to actually install WordPress completely, all we have to do is navigate to our domain now that we have all the files in there, and it's going to actually take you through a wizard, which is just a pretty easy step-by-step process. And I made it meetup.cedarrapidswebdesign.com. And it's going to see that there's WordPress files in there and everything. It's going to give us this. We're going to pick English, of course. And we're going to need to know that information I created earlier, the database name, username, password. So the database name, if I come back in here, was meetup_database. Usually you pick more of a obscure name than that for security reasons. But if somebody hacks this website, I'll be okay with that. The username was meetup_username. The password was password. I'm super secure. And you just leave that blank. And it's going to install everything for us. Site title, we'll just call it Meetup Experiment, whatever you want to call it. The username, this is going to be your actual WordPress username, so when you log in to make changes, it's going to ask you for a username, and it's going to ask you for a password. And this is ridiculous, so go away. Again, normally pick a better password, but today I'm just going to pick the word password. Confirm the use of a weak password.
Can you use the same password there as you just did? It won't tell you to use a different one?
No, you can use whatever password you want. If it
Okay.
sucks, it'll just make you confirm that it sucks. But you can use any password you want there.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Oh, well, no, I know. That's why I was asking him.
Yeah, you should use a different one for everything.
I'm getting pretty crafty on them.
And this is about as hard as it gets. Like I said, usually if you're using some kind of shared hosting, you're just going to click a couple buttons and it's going to do everything we just did for you. But I just wanted to show you that even if you do it the hard way, it didn't even take me 5 minutes to install WordPress the hard way. Logging into a WordPress website is as easy as going to the domain and adding /wp-login.php, or wp-admin will also do it. Okay, so here's our WordPress website. Go away. And we look at what the website looks like. It's just your typical, this is what every WordPress website looks like right now that hasn't been messed with. And but we're going to mess with it. So, close some of these useless tabs that we don't need anymore. Keep this one open. That can go away. Okay, so here's I'm going to pull up the website that was already created in HTML, and then we're going to turn that into a WordPress website. That's the wrong one. My bad. Go away.
Isn't it like if you have 12 characters that are mixed up that it's almost impossible to break the password code? No?
Here it is. So pretty basic, just got some random Latin in there. It looks like a blog, but this is just all one page, and that's not how a content management system works. where all the information is just hard-coded in here. If this was a real blog, every time you updated your blog, you would have to come into this HTML page, and you'd probably copy and paste this HTML, change the name of the title, change when it was posted, just a whole bunch of manual work. If you have a sidebar here, you'd have to update that with your archives and everything like that. Just a whole lot of manual work. The WordPress is going to take all that work away from us and make it a lot easier. So we're going to take this very simple website and we're going to stick it into WordPress. This is my code editor, and this right here are the only yeah, that's probably why it wasn't working before. So there's only 2 files in here, index.html and style CSS. So it's a very, very, very basic site, but it's going to let us see a lot of cool stuff in the WordPress backend. So the first thing we can do to create a theme in WordPress, every WordPress theme has 2 files, at least. Most of them have dozens of files, but technically you only need 2 files to create a WordPress theme. And that goes in the WP content folder and the themes folder. And we're going to create a folder, and we're going to call it, I don't know, Meetup Theme, whatever. That's the name of our theme today. And inside that folder, we're going to create 2 files. Index.php, we don't do HTML on WordPress, it's all PHP. And we're going to create a style.css. Now for this to actually show up in our WordPress dashboard, when we go to Appearance, Themes, it'll show up here, but if we activate it, it's not really going to work. We need to put a little more information into our file here in the style.css. Now this is kind of a weird little thing. Typically you just put style information in here. If anybody's familiar with CSS, you normally just put styling information. With WordPress, you actually add a comment, which just means you're basically adding a little note that doesn't actually show up on the website, and then you're embedding some information in there. It's kind of a sneaky little trick. But in order for this all to work, we need to give the theme a name at least. Theme name. Oh, it's really hard to read from over here. We're going to call it Meetup. What do we call it? Meetup theme, right? And we give it I actually think that's the only required thing. We typically have more information like author. We'll call it the author URI. cedarrapidswebdesign.com. And there's a whole list of information you can put in there if you want to, but I believe the theme name is really the only required thing. We'll hit save. And the first part of moving an HTML website over is the easiest part. We can actually just take the CSS right here. If you're familiar with building a website, CSS is what you use to style the website. It's what you use to change the colors of text, the alignments, just anything that makes the website look styled. It all happens in CSS. And we can just copy this code and we can just plunk it right into our CSS file. And that's the easiest part to this whole process. And we'll save that. Now we could also, and we're going to do this at first, we can open the index.html page of our simple website. We're going to copy all that. And we're going to come over here to our index.php and we're going to paste it in there. Okay. Let me see how that looks. I'm going to go into WordPress. Now if you notice these have screenshots, I didn't prepare one. If you want a screenshot to show up here for your theme you just made, all you have to do is in the root directory, in your Meetup theme, in this directory, just upload an image called screenshot.png. It has to be called screenshot.png. If you put that in there, it'll automatically show up here. So if you actually get to the point where you're building themes and you're selling it to people, you probably want a nice little screenshot there. If you're just building your own theme, not really necessary. So I didn't bother. So we'll click activate, and now this is our active theme. Let's see what changed. All right. So the CSS isn't being applied yet. This is what I mean by how CSS styles your website. There's no styling to this website at all. That's why it looks so weird. Where you remember our website earlier, it didn't look super fantastic, but it at least had some style to it. It had some blue headers and whatnot. So that's part of what we're going to do is we're going to get that to actually work. But we're also going to take it and we're going to make it what's called dynamic. And that's the big thing about WordPress is you shouldn't, once you're finished, you shouldn't be making updates to your website by going into the index.php file and adding code. That's not the point of WordPress. The point of WordPress is you want to log into the WordPress dashboard and make your changes there. It's easier for you. It's also easier for your clients if you're building them a website and they need to be able to log in. If they knew how to code, they wouldn't hire you, right? So you want to give them something where they can actually log in and make changes easily. And so we're going to set it up to do that. And we're kind of just going to go down the line in our index.php file here, and we're going to make the necessary changes, and we'll check the WordPress dashboard here and there to see how those changes were made. So let's open that up. If you're familiar with HTML, a lot of this is going to look very familiar to you. It's a very basic HTML website. And whoa, did I just click that out? I'm very clumsy with my mouse. That can go away. So it's HTML, head, title, all the standard stuff. But we're going to dynamicify or WordPressify it. So open up my notes here. Let's just open the Android version. That's stupid. Okay. So typically in a WordPress document, you're going to tell it which language you're coding in. It's one of those things that's not a huge deal, but typically it'll say something like language equals English. But to make it to WordPressify it, we're going to add a WordPress hook in here. Language attribute. Okay, now this is just an example. I don't actually know PHP, and the great thing is you don't need to know PHP to work in WordPress. But when you see something like this, PHP, and some kind of function in here, that's basically saying we're letting WordPress handle this bit right here. That's half of what we're going to do today is add little lines of code like this that says, let WordPress handle this. If I want to change this, now I can change that from the WordPress dashboard instead of coming in here and changing the code. Another thing that we do is a lot of times you'll add a character set as a meta tag. We can WordPressify that as well. And if you're not familiar with web design, I understand that some of this stuff is just not going to make any sense at all. If you're somewhat familiar with web design, hopefully the things I'm saying at least make some sense. Open my notes in the Android version of Google Keep for some stupid reason. That's dumb, so I just opened up the web version quick. So here's another little line of WordPress code that we're just going to stick right in here. Normally you would just put like a static information. You would choose the character set you want, but this again is going to let WordPress handle that for us. I'm going to do a lot of copying and pasting now because you guys don't want to just sit there and watch me type. A lot of times you want to put in a viewport that helps with keeping the website responsive. This isn't really WordPressifying it. That's just, you can see there's no PHP in here. That's just a little line of HTML.
The only thing I'm curious about is, because you're putting it at the top, these have to go into a certain relationship to the amount that you have. So you have 42 things. Out of the 42 things, the stuff that you're adding has to go to the top, or does it matter where you place it in?
So anything that goes in that head tag up here doesn't actually show up on the website. It's just,
when you said head tag, then I understood.
Okay, yeah, this is just sort of invisible back-end stuff.
Thank you.
Like the title is within the head tag. That doesn't actually show up on the website. That's what shows up here in the tab. Whenever you go to a website and it has the title of it up here,
Okay.
it's pulling that from this line right here, title.
Okay, that helped me a lot. Thank you.
Sure. And this is the first thing that we're going to dynamicify on this website. If we ever want to change the title of our website, we don't want to come in here and edit this, right? That'd be stupid. We want to go into the WordPress dashboard and do it. So how do we make that possible? Well, we take this little tiny bit of code, we get rid of that. That's called static, something that doesn't change unless you go in and manually change it. And we replace it with this. Again, this is, you don't need to understand PHP. All this stuff can easily be found on Google. But what this does is this says, whatever I put in the WordPress dashboard as the title of my website, that's what's actually going to show up here in this code. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So if we go to our preview, right now it says Advanced WordPress Theme. Let me go on the WordPress dashboard. Go into Settings. Site title. This should be our title. If I did that correctly. That Meetup Experiment up here. So that worked. You can see the title. Now, changing the title here, that's going to be basically taking that same line of code and putting it somewhere else on the website, in the body, because this is actually the body of the website. But you can see that what we did worked. It says Meetup Experiment up at the top. If I come in here to WordPress and add the number 2 and save it, you can see it worked there. So that's what I mean by making it dynamic. We don't have to go in and edit the code to change the title of our website. We just log into WordPress and type it in. We're going to see some more examples of doing that. So we come down here. That's pretty much, yeah, we're going to do a little line for that style sheet. This should hopefully get our style sheet to start working. This would normally work in a regular HTML website, the style sheet, all that stuff. But for WordPress, we're just going to change it slightly. It looks the same. It still says, style sheet. It's just the link is, again, it's being WordPressified. If I did that correctly, we should get some styling. There we go. All I did, this is the same exact website, the same exact HTML. It's just now we're applying that style sheet. And so now it actually looks somewhat pretty. And there are even, I typically, that's the one thing I do go in and edit the actual file of, because I create a child theme and I'll edit the CSS. But you can also install, there's 1,000 plugins out there that will let you edit the CSS within the WordPress dashboard. You don't even need to go into the code editor for that. So let's see what else we can WordPressify in here. So I mentioned the title. Right now it's just hard-coded in the file. Again, we don't want to do that crap. So let's come up here and just steal what we had here, blog info. No, wrong one. Where is it? It's in the title.
Right
here
there.
we go. Blog info, name. And you can see these kind of make sense. WordPress, they did a pretty good job of making their functions actually make sense. There's a lot of functions that are blog info and then something inside of it. So name kind of makes sense, right? That's the name of our blog. So that's what we want to stick here. PHP is great. You can just stick it right inside HTML anywhere you want.
So what's going to happen to the title now?
Well, we're about to see.
Oh, okay. I'm
right
sorry,
now
I jumped
it says
ahead.
Advanced
Sorry.
WordPress theme because that's what was hard-coded. But now that I've WordPressified it, it'll be whatever
Is
we
that
put.
even a word?
It is now. So now I can go into settings here, and whatever I put here, I have 2 dashboards open.
So the site title is actually attached to the thing you just stuck in the code.
Yep.
Okay,
whatever
cool.
we put in here now is going to go into that little line of code. So this should change the title here and up here in the tab.
Oh, nice.
So we're getting more and more WordPressified here as we go. Okay, so we put the name in there. Now, we also want it to, when you click on the title, we want it to link back to the main page, right? Right now, since it was just a static HTML page, this A/href, that's just a link tag. That's how you make text turn into a link. Instead of index.html, We're going to put a little fancy code in there as well. It looks fairly similar to what we just did. Okay, this echo home URL, again, that kind of makes sense, right? Home URL, we know what that is. It's our main URL. Little slash. This is going to make it so if we click on that title, it's actually going to, you see right now it doesn't work. It tries to take you to some index.html, so nothing really changed. We refresh. Still nothing happens because we're already on the main page, but you can see it's not messing up the URL anymore. If we were on a different page and we click this link, it would take us back to this main page, and we'll see that later once we get our menus actually working. This is another aspect of a WordPress website. If we go into the dashboard again, under here, tagline, right now it's just another WordPress site. We're going to change that right here using a little bit of PHP magic, and it's going to be another blog info again, but this time it's going to be description. Put that in there, blog info description, save it, and it's going to change slightly to whatever we had in the, yep, just another WordPress site. And you don't even have to include that if you want to, and half the time I don't. But it's just another little WordPress hook that you can use if you want to have a title and a little tagline. We're about to get into the fun part of making the blog actually a dynamic blog instead of just hard coding a whole bunch of articles into the index page. That's obviously not what we want. The other fun part we're going to do is the menu. Right now this menu is just a typical list with links, which works on an HTML website, but if we ever want to change that menu in our WordPress site, we want to be able to do that from the WordPress dashboard. Again, we don't want to have to come in here and do that. And that's going to be a little bit more involved. First thing we're going to do is just get rid of this list here. Right? These three lists right here, index, about, and that little star, that's what's showing up right here, these three. And we're going to get rid of that and we're going to WordPressify it. To do that, we're going to pull right here.
Are you finding this code somewhere online? I'm sorry if I missed that.
I have a note.
Comment.
I created a note with all of it.
Okay.
I learned all this from a Udemy class.
Okay.
Udemy.com. And then I just took notes.
How do you spell that?
UDEMY.
UVD. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about then.
Okay. Again, this, I don't know what this means because I haven't learned PHP yet. I'm starting to recognize some things, but that's the beauty of it. You don't really need to know. Just know that this theme location primary, and then right here, this is just a function that actually calls the menu. What this is going to do is it's going to stick a menu on our WordPress site, and then we're going to, then I'm going to show you how to make that actually show up in the WordPress dashboard. So if we hit Save Changes, our menu is going to go away because we haven't created any pages yet. But if we create a page, it's automatically going to show up here in our menu.